didn't think topology mattered for sculpting. A student in my mentorship program said those exact words to me yesterday, and they couldn't be further from the truth. Topology is extremely important for sculpting. Let me show you why using this sketch of a punk character. The face of this character has roughly around 8 to 900,000 polygons. And what I'm going to do is take my brush and sculpt on the face of this character. I'm going to create a positive stroke, and then I am going to create a negative stroke. And despite this face almost having 1 million polygons, take a look at how stretched and nasty the geometry on the surface of this sculpt is. If you take a look at the cracks and crevices of this sculpt, you'll see similar results where some of the geometry is becoming stretched and receiving these kinds of pock marks on the surface. Now, if we smooth out the surface using a smooth mesh modifier, you can see that the geometry is still stretched in a ton of these areas and not looking very clean. Now let's take a look at this face here, which has roughly half the number of polygons, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to pull out a positive brush stroke with the exact same brush and a negative brush stroke carving into the surface. Now, if you take a look at this geometry, initially it looks much more stretched and warped because of it having less polygons. But if we apply a smooth modifier to this surface, which of course in ZBrush is called a dynamic subdiv, we can see how much more clean the surface of this geometry becomes. And if we take a look at, again, the cracks and crevices on this geometry, we can see how much cleaner this geometry and surface is in general. So what's going on here? We have half the number of polygons compared to this one, yet it is much more clean. Let's take a look underneath the surface and see what's happening. I'll activate my polyframe mode to see my geometry or topology of my model. And we can see here on the first one with the higher poly count that this face was sculpted using some kind of dynamic topology here in ZBrush called Dynamesh. Dynamic topology is an awesome tool that updates your geometry while you're sculpting on the fly, yet it doesn't necessarily give you very clean distribution of those polygons. You can see in some areas it is very stretched, in other areas a bit more dense, and then there are some kind of awkward areas where there are a ton of collections of triangles, creating a huge mess on the surface of our character. Now let's compare that to our other face with half the number of polygons. We can see that we have a much cleaner flow of our geometry on this face. Now keep in mind that this topology is not animation ready. At first glance it might appear to be, but taking a closer look, you will begin to see a lot of these awkward points where the topology kind of breaks, twists, and flows in strange directions, creating a lot of stars, these points here, and the general flow in a lot of areas starts to kind of break down under closer inspection. So this is not animation-ready topology. It would not deform in a way that would be super clean and helpful for animation. Yet, this geometry is much cleaner and easier to sculpt with because the flow of our topology is already supporting the form that we are creating on top of it. Take a look at the crease of the nose here. When I sculpt on that, the geometry is supporting the flow of that form. As opposed to the nose over here where we are working with double the amount of polygons, no matter what we do, we just have nasty topology there and it is not supporting the flow of our form. So that is why topology is extremely important when you are sculpting your characters. And if you normally use something like this, like dynamic topology, I'm going to show you exactly how you can fix this and take your characters to the next level. And if you're interested in that, check out this video on screen right now. This is my #1 tip for pretty much everyone. It's going to help you out a lot. Level up your sculpts and be able to take them to the next level in terms of not just cleanliness, but also in terms of just having more control over your form. So if this video didn't convince you, that one definitely will.